All right, Belma here, founder of Work Bigger. I know most of you know me, but we've had a lot of new members actually join in the past few weeks. So just want to say hi. If you haven't connected with me yet, definitely feel free to send me a DM and reach out. I'm super excited to be jumping back on Facebook Live today because it's been actually, I think, 2 or 3 weeks since we've had our last call, which was with Dr. Linda Savage. And I'm super excited to be chatting with Cheryl. So again, I'm just going to give everyone a quick minute to join. If you're watching live, give us a like, give us a heart. Let us know where you're watching from. I'm in Hope, New Jersey. Cheryl, where are you at?
I'm actually in Toronto, Ontario right now.
Amazing, amazing. We have a few Canadians in our community, actually. So
Okay.
that's awesome. But yeah, and I'm just going to be toggling back and forth. Hi, Lynn. So good to see you. Sarah, hi. I love it. But yeah, everyone. So we like to make these conversations as interactive as possible. So please leave a comment, a question. Let us know what's coming up for you during this chat. Today, we're speaking with Cheryl Sutherland, who is the founder of PleaseNotes, which is a line of products that are meant to inspire and connect women to their mission and purpose, which is so in line with Work Bigger and everything that we talk about here. Cheryl, I'm super excited to speak with you today because your message and your story has really resonated with me. So in case everyone didn't have a chance to read Cheryl's story yet, it went out on the blog yesterday. One of my favorite things as we were doing the interview is that you talk about this breakthrough that you had, and we're going to get more into that. But what I saw was that this breakthrough is really what allowed you to transform from living from a place of fear and doubt and move to a place of confidence, which is what has led you here and has led you to starting your own company. So it made me think how we all have two voices. And I've actually been sharing this in the Work Bigger community for a while now. So this interview is super, super timely. But since I transitioned to running Work Bigger full time, and honestly, even before that, I've always felt like I've been living with two people. There's like the strong, the confident me, and then there's the other side of me that is a worrier, feels insecure, is unsure. So would love to hear, give me a smile emoji if that resonates with you in our community, because I really feel like we're not alone. We actually all have that. Hi, Shelly. Hi, everyone. Oh, I love seeing all our ladies joining. I think what we end up doing is that we identify so much with that negative voice that we shut down the positive, right? And the positive, the confidence in us becomes so much smaller, and we lose that grounding and we lose that belief that we have in ourselves. And for me, realizing that voice, that negative voice, is actually not me, is what allows me to push forward every single day. And actually, I don't think the Work Bigger blog would exist without that, because a lot of what I share on there is about working through challenges and the learnings that I take from that. And I wouldn't be able to do that if I thought that voice was truly me. So with that, super excited to welcome Cheryl and to discuss this, negative talk even more, to talk about your company, everything that you're building. So with that, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you. I really appreciate you having me here. And I'm so excited to be here in this amazing community of fantastic people. So.
Yay! There are a lot of fantastic women, I will say, in this community. So to get started, tell us a little bit about your background, where you started out and where you are now.
Yeah, for sure. So for anybody that's maybe taking a look at me or my website or anything, born and raised in Calgary, Alberta. I'm a Canadian, of course. Yay. And I think like most people, you do all the things that they say that you're supposed to do to be happy. So I went to school, I got an adult job, I, bought a car, got a house, all these different things. And I'm like, okay, well, why aren't I happy yet? And I think just hitting that point and realizing that I had attained that and realizing that I'm not still where I really want to be, like I don't feel fulfilled, allowed me to go outside of myself and start searching and start looking for different things or what would be my next step. Luckily for me, it ended up falling into my lap, and I ended up getting connected with this amazing personal development community. And I think what really helped me shift was being able to like go through and see what life could look like if I decided to have it be different. So that was the first time that I had the opportunity to really hear that additional voice and notice that it was separate from like who I really was. I noticed that during that time that I wouldn't have, the way that I spoke to myself was very similar to the way that you'd speak to somebody you really disliked. And I would never speak to anybody like that. And yet the way that I judged myself, the way that I contained myself and limited myself was so much so like very shame-based. Like, you know, if you tried to do that, you're going to fail. Like nobody's going to believe in you, X, Y, and Z. And through doing, you know, continued work and working with myself, definitely noticing, you know, those two voices and the different feeling tone that they have. And also I guess the way that they sounded in my head. You know, I noticed that my authentic voice was really one that was very playful, very light, very welcoming, warm, expansive, and then taking a look at the negative voice being very sharp, being very cutting, being very limited, and the feelings attached to it. So and it's interesting because I don't believe that we can really ever get rid of these voices. However, noticing, okay, where is this thought coming from and working through it really supports you in making a very clear decision on where you want to go.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so that's how things kind of just built into PleaseNotes.
So I want to talk a little bit about the work that you did, right? Because I think we have, I see sometimes we put a lot of pressure on ourselves to move through that insecurity, that negative self-talk really fast. I feel like sometimes we even judge ourselves for having a bad day, right? So maybe talk to us about the process that you went through. I know in the interview you talked about journaling, like self-reflection. Can you talk us through that a little bit? What was some of the work that you did to help you create sustainable transformation?
Certainly. So I have been blessed to have gone through a plethora of personal development, and in the course of that allowed me to like move to California and just do all these different things and really like learn and experience myself in a new way. However, before I started this company, it had been the same thing over and over again, where I noticed that I was really dissatisfied with what I was doing, and I realized also that if I decided to go and just pick up another job, I would still feel this way. There was something that I had bubbling up that wanted to come out, and I needed to take the time to really discover what that is, and also why I hadn't allowed it to take root, to come out. So that whole process consisted of me, and again, I'm very odd. So I'm very much one where if I'm invested in something in a company, I'm like 100% there, and I needed to create the space to allow something new to come in. So I ended up quitting my job without like knowing what was the next step, and I really allowed myself to breathe and take care of myself. So journaling is so amazing because you can't lie to yourself. Like it's such a vulnerable thing, and it's something that I had avoided for so long. And through that process of writing out, you know, like what is it that I don't like? What is it that I do like? What is it that I really want to do? That really supported me in getting clear on a lot of the things that were kind of blocking me. And then, of course, working with affirmations, I stepped into that because I really wanted to decide who it is that I had wanted to be. I had lived my life so much from the space of who does this person need me to be, and who does this person need me to be? What do I want, and what do I value, and what do I want to do? So creating that affirmation and really resonating with it and saying it to myself continually, and deciding that this was the direction that I was going to be on, like really supported me in building up my own self-esteem, and building up my own self-confidence, in choosing to listen and believe in myself and the positive voices that I was hearing. And then, of course, eventually, and it really wasn't that long, I got the idea for PleaseNotes because I realized that like having that sort of positive reinforcement is something that I wanted to have continually. So surrounding myself with these affirmations and these positive messages was going to be supportive for me moving forward. And that's how my first product came to me, which were sticky notes with affirmations, a different affirmation on every page. And it grew from there.
And I want to hear more about that. I want to read a couple of the comments that are coming in from the women in our community. Shelly says, things fall into laps all the time. You are open to receiving. That's huge, right? Yeah. So I think that's amazing. Thank you, Shelly. And Allison said, I resonate so much with this, still working on that self-talk, but I've made progress. It's I feel like we all have it. And I think talking about it, and for you, you mentioned in your interview that you were at that professional development event and you didn't want to speak up, right, until the end. And then sharing with people your journey, what you were going through, essentially, I think allows the negative to lose power because we're not holding on to it. So
definitely.
So tell us a little bit about what your mission is now and what you've been building.
My mission now is just to live my best life. And in that context, just really being very clear on what I want and what I don't want, and just moving towards doing the things that I want. Mm-hmm. So what I really love right now is I love this company because it resonates so much with me and who I am. Like, naturally, I just love to help people. I naturally see people as their best selves or in a better light. And I really wanted to support people in achieving that for themselves and building that for themselves, and not needing to go to X, Y, and Z in order to reconnect with themselves or boost their self-esteem or get clear on what it is that they really love. And then that's kind of how PleaseNotes comes into play. Right now I've been doing a little bit more public speaking and, again, sharing and just the things that I've learned just within my own process, and especially focusing on women and people that are looking to become entrepreneurs, because that is such a interesting process. You never have people here telling you, oh yeah, you're doing a good job, or this, like, you're not getting that positive feedback like you might get in a role that you're used to, where you have a boss or you have an HR manager. So being able to support people in chasing their creativity and doing really cool, new, exciting things, I love it. And it's really fulfilling for me.
I love it. Can you share with me just some of the challenges that you've been facing through this process of building your company?
Oh, it's so good. Okay, so challenges. Of course, there's stuff like, cash flow. Everybody's worried about cash flow, and also just questioning myself. Like, whenever you're doing something new, there's not like a roadmap, and like, I, of course, decided to start from the bottom, create everything from scratch. And so being able to know, is this the right decision? Is this not the right decision? Am I putting too much money into this? Should I pull back? Should I pull back and put this into something else? Like, for example, I was recently working with a marketing company, and I decided, you know what, I'm just going to give it 100%. I'm going to do everything they tell me to do. And then I'm going to be able to sort out the results from there. However, internally, I noticed that my self-talk was like, well, I can't wait for this contract to be done so that I can show that this doesn't work. Do you know what I mean? So it's being like, okay, well, if this is a way that I feel, pulling back versus continuing to move forward. So I think my biggest challenge is just being true to myself and listening to my true self when I'm getting the guidance that I really need.
Thank you for sharing that. And I'm wondering too, what questions are coming up for the women watching live. And even if you catch this after, please feel free to share a question, but we would love to hear from the community and what's coming up for you. Cheryl, as you share that story about the marketing agency, I'm hearing that I think one of the biggest struggles is like, how do you continue to follow the joy and balance that with like the logistics, right, of running a company? And I think that could apply to even if you're not an entrepreneur, like just managing the reality of the day-to-day and what you have to do with what feels joyful for you. Definitely. Does that resonate?
Definitely. And then also just knowing that things take time sometimes, like, I feel like especially with social media, we're all in this very interesting comparison bubble, right? And everybody wants to be an overnight success, but overnight success isn't really overnight. And being okay with right now in this present moment that this is where I am, and that we're actually moving closer and closer, and things are happening in such a way that if I rushed to this particular end result, that all the stuff that was going to happen in between, I wouldn't have been able to experience. Like I've been able to meet such cool people, and being able to interview people like Les Brown and stuff like that as a result of like not my own efforts, but just continually sharing this message and going out and being brave and just doing what feels really great.
You know, that, I hear you. I feel like for me, one of the biggest challenges has been staying patient. And like, I've always had this big vision for Work Bigger and what I want to create. And it's really challenging, I think, like following the steps to get there. Right. It's this, and I realized for me, that's been one of my biggest roadblocks, like managing my impatience and being like, it's okay. I need to do steps like 1 to 5 before I get to 10. I can't just jump straight to 10.
I hear you on that. And I also, and that's definitely been one of those things in my life. Like I'm a ticker. I'm all like, okay, yeah, let's just get this handled. And it's been very difficult for me to just be in the present and instead of like looking towards the future and like, there yet, I'm not there yet, I'm not there yet, versus really just sitting and enjoying like, oh my gosh, like this is what my life looks like this is pretty cool. And I actually had a conversation with my friend the other day, especially when it comes to like planning and controlling things. Like 5 years ago, would you have ever imagined that this is where you would be? I was sitting on a rooftop in mid-city in Los Angeles, just staring at the stars. I'm like, I would have never imagined that this is where I would be. But also, like, when we do our goal setting and thinking about 5 years in the future, like we can definitely make moves towards what we kind of want for our ideal lives, but also being open to the fact that it could be way bigger than what you could have ever imagined or ever planned for. So just allow it to happen and things to fall into place and move with it, right?
Yeah. I want to talk a little bit about tools like affirmations, things that you use for goal setting. Can you share a little bit about affirmations, how they work for you, how you leverage them? And anything else that comes to mind.
Yeah, certainly. So, of course, all of my stuff has affirmations on it, and I'm like super in love with it. Essentially, they come down to 3 main themes. So, there's a blue, which is carefree, which is more playful. Really great if people are working through anxiety. So, a lot of messages of like life loves me, and like hello love. And then there's the confident collection, which is really great if you're looking to like be more grounded and step out. So messages like I'm amazing at everything and anything I do. I am a magical manifester. I'm abundant in all areas of my life. And then the cheeky collection is a little bit more playful and sarcastic. So like I'm a gift that the world gets to unwrap. Oh, I just had one. Oh, I'm legendary, stuff like that. So depending on what you want to work on, there's definitely messages for you. But the signature item is the journal. And I've actually got one here. This one right here. Now, I just released it in a couple new colors, but the biggest thing that kind of differentiates itself is this, the workbook that's in here. Now, the workbook is great because you can always download it, always redo it as many times as you want. But one of the exercises, like we were talking about, is creating your own affirmations, in addition to going right out and writing out the things you love about yourself and like being able to see where you are right now in your life and where you want to go. With affirmations, it's interesting because when you're creating one, it's definitely something that you want to become, but it has to also be 50%, at least 50% believable. So the reason why is if I say like, oh, I'm a millionaire, like, is that towards what I want, or is it more pushing me away because I don't believe it? So if you don't believe it, then it's actually separating yourself from it. Some of my favorite affirmations right now.
Can I ask you a question about that? Sorry, something came up for me.
Of course.
How do you believe it? Like, so you create an affirmation for yourself and it triggers like, oh, I don't actually believe that. How do you get to that place where you do believe it?
Well, it's also about setting, it's like goal setting. If I set a goal to make $1 million this year, I'm like, okay, yeah, let's see if this will happen. However, if I make like, like $5,000 a month, and I'm like, okay, well, my goal is to make $100,000 a month, like it feels believable. So
Mm-hmm.
like, let's say, for example, there's definitely going to be some pieces that you want to pull into your life, whether it's you want to be more courageous or you want to be more abundant. However, you want to make sure you frame it in a way that's supporting you towards and pulling you towards what it is that you want. Like, let's say, for example, like, what's a goal that you have that you want to create this year? Or something that you've been playing with that you want to kind of like boost yourself towards?
Okay. I want to take a trip to Europe early next year.
Okay. And then what do you feel is going well in your life that's going to allow you to do that?
Mm-hmm. So now I run Work Bigger full time. So I have some more flexibility in
Yeah.
my schedule. Um, uh, Financially, my husband and I are like super on top of our finances now. So we're like super conscious of where all of our money is going. And we've done a lot of work in that place to just be mindful of how we're spending our money.
Mm-hmm.
What else is going well? My son will be 4 next March, so it'll be easier to travel with him to like faraway places.
Yeah. And then what do you feel is kind of keeping you away from go to Europe?
Mm-hmm. So 2 things come to mind. One, even though I have more flexibility in my schedule, it's hard to plan. So there's this fear of like, will I miss stuff if I take a really long trip? And then 2, finances. So like having a kid, there's a lot of expenses, childcare, all of that stuff. So thinking through, how much money do I need to put aside for that? Um, Yeah, and just thinking through the logistics. And then I just had another goal pop up, which I thought would be helpful to share, but we'll do that another time.
Okay. So in that case, what I would suggest is starting with a really general affirmation. So one of the ones that I love is everything is always working out for me. And
Okay.
or I'm always supported in everything that I do. And it's so funny because I'm like, it's the truth. Like anytime I need anything, it pops in. And starting with something really general allows you to not really have any resistance to it. And then as you get, feel better and better about it, you can definitely narrow that down as in like, I have like the ability to create whatever I want with my schedule. Or I'm so grateful that my schedule, or I have the financial freedom or like I am financially free. So, and I am, um, I'm abundant in all areas of my life. So that also includes like time and money. So as you go through, you're going to be able to get a little bit more specific if you want to, but even just having general ones of well-being allows the well-being to fall into multiple places in your life. So not just work or just for this particular goal, but in everything.
I love it. So just to recap, because I think that's important, is don't set intentions that feel like super out of reach. For example, like how you have to make sure that you feel connected and that you believe it. And a way to get to that belief is to unpack the goal, right? Unpack the situation, what feels like is going right, what feels like is going wrong. And then what I heard you say is create affirmations that help you tackle too, like the negative, right? Or the disbelief part so that you can get to that belief. Excuse me.
And
Does that
I
make sense?
would suggest that instead of being like tackling, it's more like you're allowing the good. So instead of focusing on like, I need to like push through this, it's like, no, like everything is working out for me. So I'm going to focus on all the great things that are happening. And then I'm also going to amplify that versus
Mm-hmm.
attempting to like, dissolve or like destroy or attack or whatever this. No. We're focusing on the good stuff.
Yeah. I love it. I love it. With that, Leah says, loving this conversation, loving your energy, Cheryl.
I've only one cup of coffee, I swear.
um, Amazing. So, okay, love the affirmations. What other tools, the journaling? Can we talk about journaling for a little bit? Because I'm also obsessed with journaling and the process. I feel like we don't leverage it enough. And I've said this to actually women in the Work Bigger community. I talk about this everywhere, but I feel like one thing we don't do enough of is spend time self-reflecting, right?
Mhm.
Or just reflecting and processing our day-to-day, unpacking our emotions, our feelings, tuning into what feels great, what feels bad. I feel like we're just kind of skipping all of that. So how does journaling help you move through, process your emotions, the good and the bad?
Usually if I'm having something pop up for me that I'm not able to kind of sort out in my head, journaling is really great because it's like a clear focus of what's working and what's not working, right? So it's interesting because I've recently gone on a very interesting journey where I've had to like shift my life from California to Toronto, and like I'm attempting to sort out like what my next steps are, and like doing all these things in my business. And I had an epiphany last night. I was like, oh, the whole reason that this all happened was so that I can feel really great, that I gave enough, that I put 100% into this. And so if I decided to do something additional, that I'm not feeling any resentment, or I'm not feeling any dissociation or like anything around
Yep,
not,
closure.
right? So
Yeah.
it's really interesting. And I think also when you're getting clear on what it is that you want, like writing it out, like it makes it real. And so I know that's one reason that I didn't want to journal. I didn't want to make things like the thoughts in my head tangible before. So whether it's good or bad, like just acknowledging the fact that it's real. And then also definitely there's different processes that you can do. Like there's one that I have on my website. There's a worksheet you could download. It's the 5 by 55 process. And basically you write out an affirmation or something that you want, 5 days in a row, 55 lines of it. And it really allows you to implant what it is that you want into your subconscious, because there's actually connection when you, versus like when you're just thinking about something, when you're tangibly writing something, that it actually like it goes in on a deeper level, that it really reinforces what it is that you want. So there's definitely a multitude of different ways that you can really support yourself, whether it's goal setting or moving forward with your life in different ways. But writing is such a really great process that, you know, we've kind of taken for granted now that we have the internet and
Yeah,
keyboard and stuff like that, right?
totally. As you've been speaking and sharing that, I'm just wondering what resources or authors or like, I guess, what resources do you use for inspiration? Like, who are some of your heroes? Because what I'm thinking is, I feel like our mission, the work that we do, is often heavily influenced by also people that we deeply admire. So I'm just curious, like, who are like your go-to people?
My go-to people. This is interesting because I just recently found people that I'm like, oh yeah, I want to be like you when I grow up. Um, I actually listen to a lot of law of attraction stuff right now, especially on YouTube. So I listen to a lot of Abraham Hicks, and that's been super supportive.
Mhm.
I love Brene Brown, and her audiobooks are just amazing, especially when it comes to shame and vulnerability. And that's really supported me in recognizing the way, like on a deeper level, the way that I was speaking to myself and considering myself. And even if you're not looking to step into a creative space or into entrepreneurship, listening to Elizabeth Gilbert, The Big Magic, girl, I have to say, I was just all like, oh, because I was so used to having like setting goals and doing things and push, push, push. And I was like, well, why isn't this working out for me? And I realizing that, you know, some things do take time, and some things you can't make happen. You have to allow them to happen. And that's really supported me in being more flow with, being a little bit more carefree, being more easy when it comes to doing stuff like this and building up my company.
Oh, Maria says, hi guys, love affirmations. I would also add to trust that universe is listening.
It's true.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's got to stay focused on all the good stuff you want versus like getting rid of the bad stuff. Because when you focus on the bad stuff, then it grows, right?
Mhm.
Versus, you know, I want this and this is where I'm going, and like I'm taken care of, and like the universe is handling things. Like it's so
Yeah.
nice to be like, I'm not here doing it by myself, that like other things are supporting me, and they really
Yeah.
are so good.
Yeah, and what and what you like were saying just about how before you used to set goals and then you used to be like, it's not working. I used to feel that way all the time because I think we're just taught one way of achieving our goals, that it's like through the hard way, the doing, the like really intense, right? But what I'm hearing you talk about is flow and being happy, enjoying the process. And I feel like that can speed up your work, your goals so much faster.
I feel so as well, because oftentimes I feel like when you're pushing and you're attempting to make something happen for a really long time, it's it's because it's, how do I say, it's not happening because there's something going on that's not allowing it to happen. So instead of just continuing to be action based, like taking a step back and be like, okay, how am I being? And also, is this feedback? You know, like, is this the universe, or is this myself or my subconscious or whichever attempting to tell me like this isn't the right road for me, that I'm really supposed to be doing something else?
Mm-hmm.
And I think having there was actually one point when I just started and I had just the sticky notes, and I was like, okay, well, I never thought I'd own a stationery company, and I'm like out here slanging these sticky notes. And then I'm like, okay, well, this is great, but this is not where I want to be. Like, I'm not creating the results that I want. And I had to take a step back and look at the whole company and be like, oh, well, I'm going to have to add on new products that work really well with this. Well, what could that be? And, you know, in doing that, I mean, I created my most successful product that like had this really great Kickstarter that people really love and really resonate with. However, if I was not brave enough to take that step back and take a big look, then it would have never happened.
Oh, yeah. A lot of allowing, a lot of allowing. So I guess a couple of things that I'm thinking to wrap up this amazing conversation. Let me just see. Oh, TV says, it seems that you have owned your life and destiny. How long did it take, and what was the major factors? Sorry for asking this. No worries, TV. Yeah, so it seems you've owned your life and destiny. How long did it take? How long did it take for you to do that?
I love that feedback, because like, look at me, I own my life and destiny. Thank you. I appreciate that. I think it's something that's going to be continually happening, and it's going to happen more and more. I would definitely say my life has shifted in the last 6 years, and especially in the 3 years that I've been running this company. And I think it's tricky, because to say how long it takes, it's a continual process, and I'm okay with the fact that it's never going to be done and that it's going to keep going. However, as long as you feel like you're happier than you were, you know, a month ago or 6 months ago or a year ago, that's all that matters. If you feel more at ease and more at ease, then just keep going.
That's huge. I feel like that should be a marker for success. And that's really it. I had this conversation with one of our community members, but we talked about really just looking for the joy and whatever brings you joy. Because I feel like only when you're working from that place are you in that allowing space that you've been talking about so much.
Definitely.
Yeah, she said, thank you. Love the response.
Yay.
And we love the questions, so keep them coming. I think we have a couple of minutes left, so I'd love to just ask you, Cheryl, for women in our community who are feeling really stuck or frustrated, they're in that negative space. I guess, what advice do you have for them? We talked about journaling, we talked about affirmations. Anything else that comes up for you in terms of what would be helpful to help women differentiate between like the positive and the negative voice and connect more with the positive?
Certainly. So definitely, and it's something interesting. I feel like we've been told for so long to discount our feelings. Like, feelings aren't real. Feelings are super real. However, we have the ability to shift them, right? And create them into being what we want. So if you are in that place, instead of judging yourself for being in that place, understanding and loving yourself in that space, then taking the time to write out, like, what is this about? Like, what is it that I'm feeling? And allowing it to come up, like acknowledging it and letting it bubble up. And it could be that you think, the reason that I'm frustrated with my job is because these guys are assholes, but really it's because you're in an unfulfilling relationship at home and it's showing up in a different place, right?
Yeah.
So sometimes it's these different places that correlate. So allowing yourself to just be unhappy, write out the reasons that you are, and also just notice what feels better. So the way that I process things a lot is I have to say it out loud for me to be like, oh, does that work for me or does it not? So sometimes I'm like, okay, you know what I really want to do is I want to put on a workshop. Yeah. And it's going to look like this, this, and this. And I'm like, am I excited about this or am I not? And then as soon as I say it, I'm like, no, this isn't for me. And then I'll like be like, oh yeah, no, never mind. You know, I'm like not afraid to look flaky anymore because I know that's my process. So being able to find your own process unabashedly and not judging yourself for it is very important. Definitely journaling and just writing things out is super supportive. And also having a friend or a group of friends that instead of interjecting how they feel about things in there, just that are able to be there and sit and listen to you and what you're going through and how you're feeling. Because sometimes the biggest thing is to process is to having that conversation or having somebody hear it, and creating that space for you, that container that allows you to just express yourself fully.
Yeah. Holding that space versus trying to fix the problem.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And like, again, that having that friend just ask you to be like, all I want you to do is ask me questions. And instead of them interjecting with things like, okay, well, like, what does that really mean? Like, how do you
Mm-hmm.
think about that? And like, where do you think this came from? And just pulling that out. And again, just being very kind to yourself, forgiving yourself and not judging yourself. Cause I mean, you're here. Like, it's not helpful to beat yourself up some more.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mhm.
I think we have a couple more questions or comments, and I'm going to read them.
Yeah.
Shelly and I, this is from Leah. Shelly and I were just talking about this, the idea that really you're never there because life isn't about any kind of destination. It's about the journey of always learning and growing and connecting. Yeah. Allison says, how do you handle financial stress? One. Thanks, Allison.
How do I handle financial stress? I think it's interesting because I've been in places where I've had like more money than I could deal with, and places where I'm all like, okay, so how am I going to pay this minimum balance? And I think the biggest thing is knowing that anything can change at any moment. You know, money can come from anywhere, and we all have the capability to create money and to get rid of money. The thing is with money is it's very sticky because it's like a day-to-day thing. Like you swipe your card, you're like, is that going to actually go through? I feel like knowing and understanding and looking, I mean, like it might be useful for you to look in your past and say like, oh, this happened and this is where money came from, and this happened and this is where money came from. But you always have the ability to make money. And if it's that, like, let's say, for example, if you have this business or you're starting out on something new and you're afraid of how to create your income, like it's very easy to create different ways, especially now with the gig economy, to create that finances that you need, at least in order to like handle the minimum stuff, or like, you know, just take care of yourself and be satisfied. One of the things that I've noticed though is when I focus on the money, that I forget all the other abundance around me. So I
Mhm.
forget that I'm getting like a really dope deal on my rent. I forget that, you know, people have been inviting me over and feeding me or giving me stuff, or, you know, stuff that I would have normally had to pay for, that like I got a whole bedroom set, or, you know, like all these different things. So instead of focusing on the financial part of it, focus on the overall abundance. Like, where else can you see abundance in your life, whether it's in friends, families, relationships, whether it's in, you know, your job, or whatever it is, like focusing on those, writing those out, and sitting in that feeling of abundance and receiving is going to allow the money that you want to come to you in different ways.
I love it. I think that's really, really good feedback. We have one more question. Do you have any tips for drowning out the distractions, just staying focused?
Well, it's interesting because you can't, it's very difficult to drown out anything. Again, like if you focus on destroying something or getting rid of something, it's going to grow. It's just like when you meditate and you're just all like, oh, all these thoughts, then you get more thoughts, right? So it's more of a process of allowing and just being focused on what it is that you do want. Focus on your goals, focus on your vision. And again, things are going to pop up. You're going to wake up in the middle of the night with like cold sweats and be like, oh my gosh, I have to do this and this. But reminding yourself and remembering, no, like that might be happening. Great, whatever, it's going to get handled. But more importantly, this is where I'm going and this is what I want to do. And sitting in that feeling of like, knowingness and belief. And then it's just a matter of time before you hear those voices or you feel those feelings less and less because you're practicing the higher emotions, I guess, for lack of a better word. Taking the time to meditate, taking the time for yourself, and self-care does not look like having to spend $1 million on X, Y, and Z. It looks like taking an afternoon and like just going to the park or sitting in the grass or reading a book or, you know, practicing meditation. And there's so many free resources even on YouTube for you to even be able to do that. And just more pouring into yourself, making yourself a priority. And that is really what helps all the other stuff kind of like disintegrate.
Yeah. And I'm also thinking, just to add to that, when you're feeling that distraction, just to accept that it's there. You know, not every day is going to be super productive. You're not going to be focused every single day. Something I'm trying to work on. It feels so good when I have a really amazing work day. And then if, you know, I have a day where it feels really tiring to do my work, and it just trying not to beat yourself up. Like we're not, you know, we're human. It's gonna happen. So
definitely. And if you're in that weird space of attempting to like push through a work day when you're feeling like sick or exhausted or whatever, you're not going to give your best work. So you need to take some time and like just walk away, take a walk, maybe do meditation. There's there's meditation rooms in every bathroom. Like you could just sit there and like take care of yourself if you really need to. But like allowing yourself to just be a human and not a machine and be gentle with yourself.
Yeah, I love it. And Allison said in response to your finance question, thank you for such a great response.
Oh, you're so welcome.
Yeah. Okay. So I would love to wrap up, even though I'm sad to wrap up because this has been an amazing conversation. Can you share with us, and I'm going to share these links, we put together, there's a link to the affirmation page, right? And then a link for journals if people want to learn more. And then I'm also going to share the interview that we did on Work Bigger. So do you want to just talk us through those real quick? And then I'll make sure I share them in the comments.
Yes, of course. So there's a couple things that, of course, that we put together. So excited. So one of them is there's a link where you can download some affirmations. So these affirmations I've designed based on a couple different things. So the ones that are there are courage and anxiety, if I'm not mistaken. So you can actually print those out and then have them on your mirror, you know, at work, or even just as a background at your phone. And then when you're feeling like, you know, that you are not in a great place, you can certainly use them, but also using them when you feel like you are in a good place. So if you're already feeling good and you're just all like, I'm a magical manifester. Like I'm amazing at all the things that I do. Like, God's plan. You know what I mean? It just helps amplify you and take you to the next level. So there's those. So make sure you go ahead and get those. And also I've just released a new journal colors that I'm really, really excited about. Before I only had it in a black and gold, and then I've released some based on feedback, like some really nice, like a really nice pink and a really beautiful blue, like turquoise color. And they all have names like bright or clarity or bold or rain. So the new colors are available for pre-order right now, and they're discounted and you get free shipping. So please, please, please go ahead and click those, and then you can start doing your own PleaseNotes magic. And then of course the lovely interview. I mean, it definitely gets into a little deeper some of the stuff that we had the chance to talk about today. And I mean, like, connect. Like, I'd love hearing.
Yeah. Where can the ladies find you on social media? Like, what's the best way? Because I'm going to share your website. So pleasenotes.com. Anywhere else, Instagram, like what is the best way to connect?
Yes. So Instagram is like the bee's knees for me. So if you go please_notes, then you'll see me. Hey. And I'm the one that receives all the DMs or like all the comments. So if you put one there, I will definitely see it. Feel free to like connect with me and share your experiences. I love it. I love it. I love it.
Awesome. And I think I found you on Facebook too.
Yes, I'm also on Facebook, but I find that like the messenger or like the things, I don't get the alerts as much, but definitely connect with me on Facebook because there's just different content on there as well.
Okay. Awesome. I just shared everything. Thank
Yay.
you, Cheryl. You're amazing. And this was so fun. And thank you to the ladies who like joined and asked questions. You know, we're just keep asking them. Like if you have follow-ups, just keep asking them on here. We are recording this call, so we'll make sure to share it on the Work Bigger website along with the interview. I'll make that update. But just so grateful, Cheryl, for your time. Allison says, thank you. I appreciate your energy, Cheryl. I know you're amazing.
I just like, but it's interesting because I feel like this is my authentic self. When I'm excited about things, when I'm talking about my company, like I just get like, it's really gross. I get hot and sweaty and I start like having heart palpitations because I'm just so excited. But this is what life can look like when you're doing what you love. And know that you're worthy of it. Know that you deserve it. Know that you can create this. Oh, so good.
You're awesome.
Thank
you so much. A lot of thank yous are coming in. Thank you, ladies.
Thank you.
So we'll be in touch and we'll chat soon.
Yay. Okay. Mwah. Okay. Bye.